All right, good morning, everybody. It is a kind of gloomy morning here in Minneapolis, but you guys are here to see and learn about flexible routines to improve numeracy skills. My name is Catherine Chicky. I usually get called Katie. I'm an instructor and coach in the Minneapolis Adult Education Program. I'm also part of the Minnesota Adult Numeracy Advisory Team. And as I mentioned before, Zoom is not my preferred platform, but I am really excited to be here and share a lot of learning that I've done this past year. So bear with me. A little bit more about myself is that last year I did a really deep dive into math is figure outable, and in doing so, I decided to take on a lot of new learning. And so today I picked two routines that I found to be really effective and building not only my own numeracy skills, but that of my students. I have a 512 math license, and when I started this journey a year ago, I really thought that my numeracy skills were great, right? You know, I've been doing this for a while already. However, what I learned is that I have a lot more learning to do myself. Just keep that in mind that when you are doing these routines, not only will you find that your own numeracy improves, but you'll find that your students also improves. So today's objectives, that I want you to experience these two flexible routines yourself. But I'm going to ask you guys to actively participate this morning and be the, for lack of a better term, student. I want you to also be thinking about what numeracy skills did each routine help you develop. And I want you to understand how to adjust this routine for your own classroom. So I want you to be able to leave today with knowing how you could do this in your own classroom. And then I'm going to help you locate resources to help you do those implementations. All right, so the first routine is called I Have, You Need. And hey, and so for this routine, it's probably one of the most flexible routines you can do, and it's something that has virtually no prep, okay? And what I mean by that is you don't have to print anything, you don't have to do anything other than kind of mentally prepare yourself and explain that routine to your students. You can use it for partners of 10, 100, 1,000. You can use it in upper level mathematics as well with percentages, the unit circle. There's so many different content that you can put into this routine that's why I love it so much. And as I mentioned, the structure stays the same for each thing, and it's something that you could even use ultimately with students being able to turn and do it with each other. So at the top of this slide is the link to get to this routine from the website, but we are going to start experiencing it right now. So when you think about we'll start with just partners of 10. And what I want you to do is I'm going to say that I have a number, and you need to think of, and if we were to say we're trying to get to 10, if I say I have 5, you need, and I would like you guys to type it into the chat box, but then wait to hit send, and we'll do a waterfall, okay? We want to make sure we give enough think time for everybody so that everybody is ready to participate. All right, are there any questions before we begin? Before the end of the session, yes, Heather will put in the chat, okay? All right, let's get started. So again, my expectations for you guys is that I want you to mentally solve this problem, and I want you to type your answer into the chat. But again, I want you to wait. Then I also want you to, if you are ready and you have the answer and you've already typed it in, I want you to think about, okay, how did I get that answer? What are the things that are happening in my head? I want you to also be prepared to listen to others if I ask them to explain. And then be thinking about, do you have any questions for anybody else or for myself? Okay, so the first thing I have you need, we're going to do partners of 10. And I'm gonna start with 5. You need. All right, hit send on that chat now. All right, so the majority answers that I'm seeing in that chat are 5. And so if we have 5 and we need to get to 10, we need 5 more. That makes 10. Okay, so for some of you guys, if you're working with those like beginning math or students who are beginning to learn about math and stuff, this is a really good routine. And then for those, actually, this partners of 10 is really, really important that students get really good at. And if you're like me, I had a really hard time doing this with my students because as adults, they're kind of like, are you kidding me? I know how to get to 10. So what students find though is that if they don't know their partners of 10 really well, when we go up to 100, it's really challenging because they can't use the skills they have for partners of 10. So if I have 5, you need 5 as well. If I have, and we're still doing partners of 10, if I have 8, all right. So we're trying to get to 10. Let me make that clear because I saw in the chat, some people might not be understanding that. Our goal is to get to 10 right now. So if I have 8, I need 2 more to get to 10. That's where this word partners comes from, is that 8 and 2 make partners to give me 10. And as somebody pointed out, partners might be a word that students don't know. So you'd have to tweak this slightly for your own students. What about if I have 2? You need all right, so yeah, you guys, we need 8. So 10 might be something that might be too easy for your students. So the next thing that you might want to check out is then, okay, well, let's do partners of 100. Okay. So for this one, I'm going to have you guys pause after I say, if I have, and you know what you need to have. You're going to type it in the chat bar and have you wait to send it. Okay. Wait to send it. If I have 70, how much do you need? Type that into the chat and hit send, please. All right. So you guys, most of you guys have type 70. I have 40. How much do you need? Hit send. All right. Nice job. I'm going to ask, Kale, would you unmute and tell me how to know to get 60? What'd you do? Kale, are you able to unmute Kale? Creepy? Okay, fair enough. I appreciate that. Thank you. Could I have Kelly? Would you unmute, please, and tell me how would you get 60?
Yeah, definitely. So I saw that I needed partners of 100, so I started with 100, and I use subtraction to get there. So I chose to do 100 minus 40 equals 60. Subtraction's been my preferred method for these, but I'd love to see other ways.
Thank you. Did anybody do it a different way? Ooh, Eric says he pictured a row of 10 units of 10. Oh, nice. Katie says knowing that 4 and 6 make 10, she could then do 40 and 60 make 100. All right. Okay, so as you can see, we got a couple different ways that people are thinking about this. And that's the beautiful thing about this, that there's not just one right way. All right, so we're going to up the ante here. Instead of, let's try, if I have 73, you need all right. So 27 is what you need. I'm sorry, guys, I have something pop up on my computer here. Very strange. Um, okay, so interesting. Erica said, now, well, now my method doesn't work. And Krista says, no, I still can make it. Krista, do you want to explain more about what you mean?
Sure. Well, if you're thinking about it in 10 units of 10, you would need seven more to get up to your next full unit. So it would be like 80. And then you would need two more rows of 10. So if you're still thinking about it in those rows, you just have to break one of those rows up to have what you have, the three, and then what you need is the seven.
Nice. So you're really breaking up and looking at it by place value then. You know, you can break that 10 into ones in order to get that 7 that you need to get to that next 10. All right. If we are thinking about this as, let's say, instead we're gonna jump to fractions. Okay, now this is where I know some of you guys might be like, "Ugh." Okay. If I start with trying to find partners of 1, we're gonna start friendly. If I what do I need to get to 1? Type your answer into that chat. Nice. Okay, we know that we're missing a half. What about if I start with 7/8? What do I need to get to 1? Very good. I need 1/8. Um, could I have Miss Dawn Shannon? Would you unmute and tell me how did you know that?
Fractions are my absolute favorite. Always remembering when the numerator and denominator is the same. It always equals 1. So it's just you know, a given equation for me in my head whenever I see the numerator and denominator the same except for 0. It's 1. It equals 1.
So you knew that 8/8 was going to equal 1.
Mhm.
And if you had 7/8, you knew you needed your 1 away.
Yes, I know I need 1 more to make that 7 into an 8.
Nice. Okay.
And
Thank you
I
so
mean,
much.
yeah, I was gonna say it's hard for students to comprehend that because if you ask them, do you want 3/4 of a piece of cake or 1/4? Sometimes they get mixed up that a larger number is a bigger piece, and not knowing that the more you divide that number, the smaller the piece is. So it's something it takes a couple days or 3 days to figure that out.
I couldn't agree more. Okay, I'm going to do one more example. Touch on percentages. So if I have, let's say 93%, what would you need to get to 100%? All right, 7% here. Now, hold on. So I want us to think about what are some of the things that you notice? I want you to type your answers in the chat. What did you notice about this routine? Right, so we're getting everybody's engaged, many ways for students to get the right answer, ensure they're thinking. Great place to reinforce addition strategies. Seeing what other people are thinking. Can get incrementally more advanced. For fractions, it could really help students focus on getting to 1. Yeah, these are all exactly what we're wanting our students to do, right? We're wanting them to have these experiences. So, is there anything that you're wondering about this? Okay, so you're wondering how you could do this, modify this for geometry or for algebra. So how many of you guys have worked with, think about angles? If you are doing partners of 180 degrees, maybe for complementary angles, you have a 30-degree angle. What size is your other angle? If you're working with the unit circle, right? And if you're trying to get to, and you can pick, what do you want to get to? Do you want to get to pi? Do you want to get to 2 pi? You want to get to 360 degrees, right? You can choose to choose how to split that up. I hope that helps for some of you that might be teaching like the upper level mathematics, like, and especially things for like the GED. Trying to see if there were any other questions in the chat.
A couple more questions, Katie. Chris was wondering how to logistically set it up, how many in a row to do, how to engage the discussion for students that just know it.
Great. Lots and lots of practice. So like if you're, this is something that I like to do like at the very beginning of class, because as students walk in, once they know the routine and experience it, it's not something that needs a lot of prep or a lot of like rustling of papers. They can walk in the door and they can start participating. You know, if you do this at like 5 minutes, or if you have your lesson ended early and you're like, oh geez, I have 10 minutes, what am I going to do? This is something that you can kind of have in your back pocket and ready to do, or regularly schedule with your students. The more often you do this with students, the more likely they are to be successful with doing, with really understanding like the partners, and it makes the computations that you're doing in your head much faster, because you're getting the practice, you're getting the thinking, you're getting to hear other students, and you don't have to ask like a ton of students. And you want to start with, you notice I started with numbers that were smaller and then went on. So I started with like 80 and 20. And then once you got that, then we looked at like 73, I think it was. And then you added 27. And I didn't start with 27 and have to count up to get 73. You want to start with the numbers that are closer to like 100 or to the higher amount, because then students can, they have less way to travel in their brain, and it's easier then.
Katie, one other question, a couple of people are asking why you say partner of instead of total of.
I guess, so this isn't my language, but I'm guessing it's because of the fact that we want students to know that if I'm trying to get to 100, if I have 30, 70 is its partner. And if I have 70, 30 is its partner. That both of those, they partner up. And so if students know that, there's less like things that they have to remember in their head. It's not like 70 has to be a whole separate thing. If I know that 70 and 30 go together, 7 and 3, I can scale that up and use it in multiple examples. If that makes sense. All right, I'm gonna have you guys hold any other questions, and then hopefully we're gonna have time at the very end. I do want to show you one more routine. All right, hold on. All right, so this is the next routine that we ended up, another teacher and I started using in our classrooms toward the end of the year, and we found it phenomenal. So it's called As Close as It Gets. And what I want you to do is I want you to look at this problem. And I want to know which one of these is the closest answer, and to think about how do you know. I want you to type your answer into the chat, but I want you to wait to send it. All right, type your answer and send that answer now into the chat. Nice. All right, so far I've seen people either type B or 100. And so it seems like pretty much everybody's in agreement. And some of you are typing your reasoning and while others weren't. So I'm interested to find out like what, as I'm trying to navigate the tools here. Hold on. Using rounding or estimating. 201 is close to 200 and 90 is close to 100. Do by rounding. All right. So in this, 100 is the answer. And I'm seeing a lot of your explanations in there. Let's look at another example. Maybe. There we go. So again, I want you to think about this one. I want you to type which answer you think is correct, A, B, C, or D, or the number in the chat, but I want you to wait to send it. All right, type your answer into that chat box. All right, so I want to know, is there somebody that would like to tell me how they knew that, or how they got their answer? I see some people are typing in the chat. Cindy says 4/9 is a little less than half. And 8/7 is a little more than 1. So it sounds like Cindy is saying that, okay, if I have this is like saying it's about half. And this is like saying it's about 1. So if we're adding half and 1 together, we get 1.5, right? Or 1 and 5/10. We got one more, okay? Again, I want you to think about what the answer is and type A, B, C, or D into the chat box, but wait to send it, please. All right. Type or hit send in that chat box. I don't see any explanations this time. Is there anybody that wants to be brave and share their idea of how they did this? Well, that's super interesting. All right, so Krista says that she said 26% is like 25%, which is like a quarter. She said she looked at the choices and multiplied by 4. I would have never thought to do that. So 26% is close to 1/4, and 49.5 is close to 50. So you rounded that. Half of 50. Nice. 25% of 50. Okay. A quarter of 50 would be a half of a half. So half of 50 is 25, and half of 25 is 12.5. Nice. Nice. So we have somebody else that I'm comfortable finding 10%. We found 10% of 49.5 twice, and then found half of that 10%. Yep, 25% of 50. Oh. All right. So what I want now is, rather than being well, actually, give me 1 second. I want you to think about, what did you notice and what did you wonder about this routine? What did you notice? A lot of ways to do it. So many ways to find a solution. Ooh, I like how it requires you to think about the numbers and not just plug and chug. I love that too, Natalie. Flexible thinking. It really does force you to kind of like practice that rounding in like a more meaningful way than just saying, hey, round this number, round this number. Being able to experience clever ways from other students' thinking. One of those ways was being able to switch from fractions to decimals. Nice. So, so yeah, Jillian, typically in my classroom, I've really trained students to know to wait. And then I have them put like a thumbs up when they're ready. Because I can't see when they typed in the chat until they hit send. But in my classroom, when I taught this online, I have them type in the answer, or I have them do it in a poll. However, for purposes of this not being my preference for a platform, I didn't feel as comfortable doing polls in this platform. But typically in my classroom, I'll do a poll and I can then see people's answers and I can see like when they're ready. Bravest students answer first. So typically, like if I've done this, I've trained my students well. Like if I do want them to waterfall, they know to not type the answer until, and especially if they're a newer student and they join and they start doing it, they notice nobody else has done it and then they don't do it anymore. Yep, you could also have them do it on the whiteboard. Yeah, Beth, I agree. So, hold on. Some of the highlights now, we're gonna go back around. I'm gonna highlight something about each of these routines to kind of refresh your memory, and then again, it gives you the link to the website. And so now if people want to, if somebody wants to type out that link, if they want to, if not, that's fine. I will share it at the end. This routine is very flexible. So the I have you need routine, because you can change it into various contexts, right? You can do partners of 100, you can do complementary angles, you can do unit circle, you can do fractions, percentage. I mean, like the content is like endless that you can insert into it. You can do it with different group sizes. I've done it with large groups. I've done it with small pull-out groups. I've done it with, I haven't gotten to where students play with each other because I didn't do it often enough. Just like with any routine, the more often you use it, the more likely it's to become something that they can just pull out and do. But you can do it one-on-one with students. I have you need in the car with my own kids. One of them is going to 9th grade and the other one's going into 5th grade this year. But when he was in 4th grade last year, he loved this game. He's like, Mom, can we play? So it is something that they like. It does feel more like a game, even though it's building skills. So there's many great resources that are free to help support you in this, okay? There's a website that has videos that you can watch of master teachers doing this, and they talk about the teacher moves really closely. There's a PDF that you can download that has, hey, as you're considering doing this, these are the things to remember for teacher moves. These are things that you can ask questions about kids thinking, or students thinking as they're going. And sorry, I said kids because I played this more with my kids than I played with my own students here. But then, you know, it has a whole bunch of great free resources. So again, that website, I will put into the chat. As close as it gets, this routine is very flexible because again, it can be used with various content. You can use it with basic operations of practicing addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. You can up the ante and use it with fractions or ratios or percents. There's even some, I think, a couple of geometry ones and one other one that's upper level math, and I can't remember what it is. It might be a function one on her website. Okay, so there are ready-made ones until you get more comfortable with them and your own numeracy improves and you're like, ooh, I want to do this. This routine in particular, I found helped my students become better test takers because especially for that fraction one we did, if you were to have to add fractions and find, you know, common denominators and then add and then have to simplify and reduce again, the time it takes to answer those questions on a test, it takes so much longer than just being able to reason and know that 4/9 is almost half and 8/9 is almost 1. So if I add those two together, it's going to be around 1.5, right? I mean, that took me 10 seconds. And so we want our students to have those opportunities to develop those skills and see why it's important. And finally, there also is a website with various free examples for as close as it gets, that until you feel comfortable making your own, there are some there. So I wanted to just give a little plug. I took a very deep dive into Math is Figureoutable this past year, and it is a movement that's led by Pam Harris and Kim Montague. They really push for reasoning through math. They aren't against algorithms. Algorithms are phenomenal and they're great tools, but they're not great for learning math necessarily. They're efficient, but they're only efficient if you understand the algorithm. And as we know, as adult educators, many of our students don't understand it. And so being able to ground them in reason and being able to do math and reason through it and think through it is really empowering. And so they have a phenomenal resources to be able to share. They have all of these free resources. They have a free podcast that you can listen to where they not only do they do something called Math Strat Chat, and they will then talk about that on their podcast. So every episode is a Math Strat Chat, and the other one's like an actual podcast. They have a Facebook group that's free. They have an instructional routine hub that's free and accessible to every teacher, where both I Have You Need and as close as it gets are located. There's also a problem string hub, which if you are interested in, I'm doing one more presentation and it's actually about problem strings. And if you are interested to learn more and actually kind of dive in yourself, there is paid resources. So there's various workshops, there's books, and there's like a giant PLC group called Journeys. So some more information about her resources. or their resources. What questions do you guys have for me, or what questions do you guys have for each other? There is that one. This is as close as it gets as the second one. And this is the third one. They should be in there. If they're not in the slot in the folder, Mark, please let me know.
And Katie's slides are in the Sched app. If you go to this session in the Sched app, you can download the slides with the links.
And I just put my email address in the chat. If you guys want to reach out, you feel free to do so. Well, I just want to say thank you so much for coming and attending. I hope you walked away with information that's helpful and useful for you. It was a joy spending my morning so far with you, and I hope to see you my next one at 11, but you know, there's lots of good sessions. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Katie. Great ideas. Thank you for sharing. And thank you to Cindy for tech hosting today.
Yeah, thank you, Astrid, and thank you, Cindy, for being my backup.